Good morning, good evening, good afternoon everybody. Sorry if I don't look directly at the camera, it's quite bright out here. It's Sunday morning here, I think, because I haven't got a watch. Graham made me one, but it fogs up. It's not as good as he thought. We've run out of tea bags on a Sunday morning in Spain. Because a lot of people think we're in Gibraltar. We're not. I'm actually in Spain at the moment. I think that's in shot. That's the Rock of Gibraltar. And that's where I'm going to get tea bags. Because it's a Sunday, there are some shops open in this side of the border, but they're quite far to walk, and Gib is the nearest place. Our marina, I mean there's other marinas in Gibraltar. There's Marina Bay, Queensway. I think they've got a new marina on the eastern side. I'm not sure, I haven't been down that way for years. But the biggest marina in the area is ours, and it's got the boatyard, so everyone from Gib, they used to have a boatyard in Gib, but the guys sold it to property developers who built, hope you can hear me over the wind, they built a casino and a load of flats. So we're sort of, the whole community is really integrated. People this side of the border are related to people that side of the border, and vice versa. And lots of people are friends. Lots of people work there, but live here. Some people actually live here. Sorry, no, I've got it the other way around. Some Gibraltarians actually commute to come to work in Spain. So it's quite an integrated community. Very, very multicultural. There's well-known established families that are Swiss, Maltese, Portuguese, Spanish, British, of course, Indian. There's a big Jewish community, a big Muslim community, Moroccan, and it's one of those places where when the world is against it, you'll see them all link arms together. It's really quite something to see. So, I thought today's video would be a bit longer, and I'll show you how we get into Gibraltar. Now, I've got it here somewhere. One needs a passport, and at the moment, really, residence, ideally. If you're a European citizen and you cross into Gibraltar, you get through just fine. If you're British, you have to be stamped on the Spanish side. It's kind of weird because I'm going to show you as much as I can at the border, but we're not allowed to film going through. In here, the Spanish actually have a border when you're leaving Spain and going into Gibraltar. Whereas when you leave Gibraltar, there's no border on the Gibraltarian side, only the Spanish side. So it's like three lots of immigration every time we go in and out. And obviously working at the Dolphin Safari, which is that side of the border, we cross that a lot. So this bit here that we're about to cross, obviously pedestrian crossings don't mean a great deal here in Spain. Okay, that's where the cars go to enter, and this here this is to the car park. This is the exit of the car park. They built this great big car park, Santa Barbara, just outside the border, for people to park and then walk across, because generally walking across is easier, but not always, actually. It changes depending on what's going on with the powers that be. Anyway, so I see Meghan and Harry are going to go to Colombia. Really safe country. I don't know much about Colombia. I know the reputation and cocaine and stuff. I'm certain there's going to be a lot more to the country and its culture than that. And I hear this morning a rumour, I don't know if it's true, I think it might have just been one of their silly fans online, suggesting that they're going to represent the country of Nigeria as a Nigerian prince and princess. Goodness me. Why is it? I actually find that quite easy to believe after all these years of their lunacy. And they're giving this interview, apparently, on online safety, which I find absolutely astonishing, considering they have both played a role in making the internet a more dangerous and threatening place. Now, as a lot of you know, I came in on this on the engagement interview, but then it got more intense for me when a man called Christopher Boozy came along, who at the time appeared to be working for Meghan Markle as a henchman, a kind of an online bully, trying to silence voices on the internet. And then over the years, as it's transpired, this guy appears on their Netflix show. And his behaviour online has been really quite appalling. But that doesn't stop them from going on about people's mental health. And fast forward to all these years, I see all kinds of crazy going on back in my own country. Rioting, looting. It's basically, as far as I can see, a spilling over of rage from online into the real world. And it astonishes me that voices such as Yankee Wally, a perfectly reasonable voice, was just completely silenced. By it would appear Meghan Markle, Ellie Hall, Christopher Boozy, you know, that kind of thing. And Trevor Coult demonetised because they thought that would shut him up, but it didn't. And yet now their voices are needed more than ever as voices of reason. And they've been replaced by a whole other bunch of crazy. And yes, I do see people inciting violence. I don't like violence, regardless of people's creed, colour, religion or politics. I don't like violence. I can't accept violence. And I have been watching Yaxley Lennon. And yes, he has called for peace. But equally, there were tweet videos before positively revving it up. Innocent people have had their shops looted, cars set fire to, who are nothing to do with anything. This here we're approaching now is the queue, the car queue for the border. It's not too bad today, virtually non-existent. So Meghan and Harry, as I see it, have played their part. I mean, I used to say to Graham years ago, the way people complain on social media about, you know, woke this, woke that the people who would just see racism where there was none. I distinctly remember saying to him, these people want something to cry about, they're going to end up with something genuine to cry about, and here we are. Rage on all sides. Not that I'm holding Harry and Meghan entirely responsible, but they have played a large role in antagonising and making people very, very angry. Right, we're coming up to the border now. That's why it's getting a bit busier. So I've got to concentrate. And as I say, I'll take you as close to the border as I can and then start filming the other side, so you can see for yourself what it's like. This is very, very quiet. So there we've got all the cars queuing to go through the douane and then immigration. So douane's Guardia Civil and the immigration is controlled by Policia Nacional. So one lot's searching your pockets and the other's checking your passport. And we're not allowed hats and we're not allowed sunglasses. Well, I'm going to try and get away with my hat because it's Sunday morning. They might be okay with it. We'll have to wait and see. And this is not a friendly border. I mean, it works, it's fluid, But it's never been an easy border. It's never been what we call a friendly border. And this here, if people buy goods, they can claim back the VAT in that building. Right, this is the entrance, so I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so just come out the border. I'll just film that. You can see people coming out the border. And the first thing they see is the phone box. And they all want their picture taken with the phone box. And when there's big groups coming through, they literally block the entrance to a country. It's a nightmare. So it's not just the border. Then, I mean, it's a Sunday, so it's nice and quiet, so I can do this. But then there's the obstacle of getting past all the tourists who really don't understand. And then here, we've got a taxi rank. If ever you come to Gibraltar, there's two ways to see the monkeys. There's the cable car, which a lot of people want. There's also these fabulous guys, taxi drivers. And they take you right up to the knife edge. You get to see literally everything. They stop off for 15-20 minutes at each of the major places, and they know all the monkeys. I've got nicknames for them and stuff. So then that's the next hurdle we have to get past. This is Four Corners military base, married accommodation. So once we've struggled past this, and you can see there's still taxis,
and you have an app or something that tells you here.
And then the next hurdle, although it's not that bad these days, is the parody kiosk. The parody kiosk is a little cigarette kiosk where all the smugglers used to buy their cigarettes. So that was like a beehive. Really difficult to get past there. This is all just getting to work. Which is all very well. When the weather's very, very hot and you live here, it's not so much fun and you're late. It's all changed now. This is the parody kiosk, where a lot of people get their cigarettes, especially smugglers. And then a lot of tourists queue up to buy a bus ticket because they think that's where to buy the bus ticket, which it isn't. The place to buy the bus ticket is on the bus, and we're going past the bus stop now, which is the next hurdle that we normally go through. But again, as it's Sunday, it's quite clear. And then, once we're sort of at this part, we're all thinking, please God, the light stays green so I can cross the runway. It's a live, active runway. It's a military runway. They have a few military aircraft coming in and out every year, but it's mostly commercial. EasyJet, British Airways. In fact, I'll walk right up to the green man. So you can see most traffic doesn't come up this road anymore. This is, I think this is part of Winston Churchill Avenue. They go round the tunnel at the end of the runway. So no cars cross the runway anymore. They used to, and all the traffic would build up here. They've got a level crossing. Barrier comes down, nino, nino, nino. All the traffic stops, pedestrians stop, aeroplane takes off, lands, whatever. And then it was like the Grand Prix, 6 times a day, 7 times a day in August. It's in the summer. They have quite a lot of movements. Haven't noticed them so much. So this is where people cross onto the live runway. And I'm not actually going to cross because I want Anarchy, which is behind me, but I'll just show you a bit. Oh, they've got a name for this gate. They put these gates up as well to stop. I don't know. Maybe they close them at night or something, but they put these sort of ominous looking gates up relatively recently when they stopped the cars from crossing the runway. I mean, it's just so weird to me now to look at the runway and there are no cars crossing because, I mean, we all commuted that way. Right, Anarchy, tea bags, butter, bleach, must not forget. Forgot butter yesterday. And obviously Graham's waiting for a cup of tea. And once the siren goes and the red man shows for pedestrians and cars in the olden days, well now just for pedestrians, you are not allowed to get on that runway. If you're already on the runway, you're allowed to cross to the other side. But once it goes red, if you're not actively on the runway, you can't cross. Right, shopping. Right, mission accomplished. Butter, bleach and tea bags. Much to Graham's relief, I'm sure. Now the next part of the journey is to get back out of Gibraltar. into Spain, which, as I said before, involves crossing two borders. Oh, sorry, no, only one. Only one on the way out, two on the way in. It's not too bad today. And again, I think a British Airways has recently landed, so there'll probably be a load of people from Britain trying to cross into Spain, because a lot of them have accommodation there, and they get confronted with all kinds of challenges. They have to prove that they're staying in holiday accommodation. Sometimes they need a letter of invitation. Obviously they get stamped. And we as a family have been registered Spanish for years, but we've recently had to get an additional document because it's bureaucracy. So I have to carry an additional piece of paper until further documents come through. It costs a fortune, actually. The initial residency cost us €1,000 because there are four of us, 250 each. We used an abogado, a lawyer, and he had to get it officially, all our documents officially translated to get the original. And then we've gone on and got this further thing, which has cost another €500 just for me and Graham. So the kids did theirs last year, I think. Thank goodness there's a bit of cloud cover today. It is humid. So anyway, yeah, there's Meghan and Harry pontificating and spouting about online safety and talking about parents. Well, their kids can't be old enough to be on the internet. Most they can be doing is watching YouTube kiddie films. You know, like, I don't know, whatever little kids watch. Probably Ben 10, that kind of thing. I mean, it's not like they're going to be getting into one on Twitter about Teletubbies Are Us, is it? Where it's a fractured community of niños arguing about which Teletubby's the greatest. I mean, I don't know, maybe there is such a thing going on. But what the hell are they talking about? Right, now I go this way. Someone got me into doing this back in 2014, which may seem even more awkward than everyone else going the other side of the road. This is customs. That's the Spanish side. Gibraltar side. So I cross this way to avoid the crowd. I've always avoided crowds as much as possible. I actually freak out if I'm in a place where there's lots of people. I can't cope with it. Airports, you know, every time we fly, I can't stand it. I don't know what's wrong with me actually. So now, oh, and this here, this is called the hairpin. Looks a bit like a racetrack, doesn't it? Now, there's 6 lanes there, and believe it or not, that's flowing really well. They're going to come down, they're going to go through there. That's Spain. Those gates, the rusty ones this side, they're Gibraltar, and the black gates the other side, that's Spain. And at one time, both lots of gates were shut. Now, those 6 lanes will fill up at certain points, and you can find yourself sitting there almost all day, just trying to go to Spain to do some shopping. Right, now, I'm going to walk through the border. So again, I'll have to stop the video and then we can have a proper chat. Okay, back in Spain now. And I think I might take a bit of a walk down to a beach somewhere, find somewhere quiet to sit down and do the rest of the video. But just before doing that, this is the queues of the cars to get in. I mean, there's not a queue for pedestrians today, but sometimes the queue goes all the way down there. And I've seen it go all the way around this corner and all the way back to our marina in the hot sun. It's usually when there's been a load of coaches with tourists on. Coaches hold about 55 people each. So you get 10 of them, 550 people, plus guides, plus just ordinary people trying to get to work. And it's been quite chaotic at the border for some time. They've got new systems coming in, which November they say. I don't know if they're going to make life better or worse. I think we've been through the worst. 2013 was definitely the worst. I mean, there were people keeling over in the heat, because they usually do this in July and August, hottest month. I mean, people literally keeling over both sides of the border. Elderly, pregnant, little kids, people who didn't realise they really needed an air-conditioned car and plenty of water to drink. maybe the odd ice pack or two. I get so hot down here. I haven't been swimming yet, and I don't really feel I'm through all the obstacles until I get past this Santa Barbara car park entrance. Just feels so much more spacious this side of the border. I love Gib, don't get me wrong, but it is a small place, and it's just nice to get out and to really feel the space in Spain. Oh, it's hot. Right, I'll find a quiet spot and we'll have a chat. I should have used the crossing. So another thing I wanted to address is sometimes I see comments of people saying, do I think my channel is suppressed by YouTube? No, probably not. And people refer to it as a small channel, which in the grand scheme of things, yes, it is. But I think we're a nice cosy group, and I'd say we're a substantial group. But my belief is why personally my channel doesn't grow much is because I do allow free speech and I speak my mind, no matter how popular, unpopular it is. And I get abusive comments sometimes from people who say, oh, you didn't worship this politician enough, you didn't worship that politician enough, you know, fuck off. But I don't delete their comments. I leave them there. And then people are like, oh, because you don't agree with me on every single subject, I'm off. And they announce it, come back and make like 100 abusive comments. So that's why a lot of people leave the channel. They're like, no, you've got to be this, you've got to be that, you've got to fit this box. Nah, sorry. Fiona Mont doesn't fit in any box. I never did. I was always a loner, always the weird one. I was a weird one in my family. I was a weird one at school. I've always been different, and I'm aware of it. But it is kind of ironic when you get these people who comment and say, oh, she only wants her free speech. Well, I'll leave your comments there. Everyone can read them. If you want more, open your own fucking YouTube channel. Say what you like. I'm not an elected official. And people demanding, you're not allowed to say that on your YouTube channel. Yes, I fucking well am. As long as it's under YouTube's terms and conditions, yes, I am. Or am I supposed to lie and be fake and pretend that I'm something that I'm not? Not that I'm suggesting anyone in the media or YouTube ever do that for clicks and likes. But it's not my style, and never has been. There was something else I wanted to talk about, and I've completely forgotten it now. It'll come to me. Oh yeah, that's right, I just remembered. Some twat the other day said to me, hey, you've lied to us all these years and said you're right wing. Sorry, I never said that. And now the mask slips, we see you're a lefty woke, you know, and a whole bunch of nicknames and insults. Like people use nicknames and insults for the right, they use it for the left. And I'm like, that was very much the point when I leapt to the defence of Yankee Wally and Trevor Coult. That people like me, and I'm not really left, I don't know what the hell I am, I think I'm a centrist, or I don't know, I might think that's a good idea, but that isn't. There goes an aeroplane. I don't know if you can see that. There it goes. I really hope I'm getting this in shot. You should see it take to the sky in a minute, because if it doesn't, something's gone terribly wrong. There it goes. Up, up and away. Back off to the UK. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, that's where I came in. I mean, to fight for people's right to speak, even when I completely disagree with them. I may completely agree with them. But not to silence them, and then I'm told shit like that. Get off, you know. Do one, get bent. I think, actually, it's not easy to defend someone's right to say something when you completely disagree with them, on whatever subject it may be. It could be over fashion, it could be over bird spotting, it could be over religion, it could be over politics. But to have the spirit of Voltaire, you know, I disagree with every word you say, but I defend your right to say it to the death. I do believe I said that in the very first video that I made about Yankee Wally. And yet, is the courtesy returned by certain people? Thank God most of you are exactly the same as me in that spirit. No, it's not. It's like I was actually called a lefty retard. I was actually called a lefty retard. Well, that's not very helpful. That's not going to win anyone over to anyone else's way of thinking, is it? Right. Swimming time. Okay, so I've risked life and limb, literally, proper Bear Grylls. I just climbed down that, and that might not seem a lot for you guys, but firstly, it's a lot for me, and secondly, a lot of those rocks are loose. But I had to get down to the water so I can just make sure my phone doesn't fall in. So I can put my feet in the water because it is so hot. Haven't been for a swim yet, but I think today is going to be the day. So yeah, Harry and Meghan, I mean, it's like they delete chunks of their history. Like, they don't want to talk about Christopher Boozy. I see people do this a lot. Christopher who? Boozy what? What now? Who? Yankee who? Trevor what? Yeah, I see all of that. They don't want to admit that they've stoked stuff up. They do it under the guise of worrying about their children. Well, I suppose when their children are older, fair enough. There's a man staring at me now. This is why I don't do these kind of videos outside very often. Hola. Go away, please. Leave me alone. I'm very antisocial, actually, believe it or not. What was I going to talk about now? Oh God, go away. Please go away. I mean, once upon a time, it'd be unheard of to hang around here. Look over there, that beach there. That's Western Beach, that's Gibraltar. And all that is Gibraltar. And then, obviously, I'm just here, just across the water. People do swim it sometimes. They used to in the olden days, because what happened before, I mean, Spain's an incredible country. It's really come on a lot, politically speaking, because they had General Franco, and even General Franco, I don't think, ruled the whole of Spain, only about 2/3 of it. And he said, you know, it's very hard to govern. But this particular town, La Linea, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, you would get mugged, you know, just sitting here with my shoes off. So, you know, not really in a position to chase anybody. I've never been mugged. I've never had anybody, I don't think anybody's ever tried it, but I know a lot of people who have, people I work with. You lose your passport, that's it. In a community like that, you're buggered, really, because you can't get to work or get certain things from the shops or, you know, get access to government documents. You really are, you're stuffed. It's very different, this town, to the rest of Spain. Oh, it's so hot. So yeah, the hypocrisy of Meghan and Harry. I mean, I know everyone knows they're a pair of hypocrites anyway. I haven't seen this interview yet. I'm not even sure I'm going to watch it. But can they not see, can people like that not see, that by all the complaining and bitching and moaning about artificial racism, let's call it what it was, all those years, that, oh, it was all because Meghan was black and all this nonsense, you know, and racism. Can they not see that by bitching and going on like that, they alienated so many people, made people very angry, especially on social media, which exacerbates everything. It amplifies people's emotions, people's feelings. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, it does it to me. So I am quite good at sitting on things a lot. You know, I was brought up that way, but we all have our limits. We all explode. I had some person the other day having a right go because I don't like Yaxley Lennon. And I don't like anyone who incites violence. And they started saying I was having a go at Nigel Farage. I never even mentioned his name. And actually, I heard the remarks, questions he asked, and I didn't think it was that inflammatory. I didn't think it was inflammatory at all. I thought he was actually asking reasonable questions. And obviously a judge agreed with him and released the name, you know, which obviously hasn't helped at all. Because the problem is when these kind of things get lit, there's violence on all sides. Everybody's joining in, and you see these videos and you're not sure who's doing what, who's saying what. to who and why. Imagine all the hours of CCTV footage the police have got to go through to figure out who's done what. I do not envy them their job. They're coming in, they're getting it in the neck, aren't they, left, right and centre. I see some poor copper being kicked off his moped and then people kicking him. Thank God he had a crash helmet on. Thank God. I don't like violence no matter who it is. And I can see anarchy coming. It's... See, I'm not really a political person. I'm more of an economist. And I'll tell you why. What happened to me years ago. I bought a flat when I left home. Just a little flat. I had a little mortgage. And I was really stupid and naive, and I didn't know my head from my arse. I honestly didn't. I thought, well, you got a job, you pay the bills, and blah, blah, blah. Everything, all will be well. I'd never heard of a recession. I didn't even know what an interest rate was, even though I had a mortgage. I didn't understand. I still don't really understand how the bank interest rate reflects to people who have loans, because... I suppose it's passed on, is it? But people who give loans out, they have much higher interest rates, don't they? Anyway, so there's me watching the news, because my dad always did, so I thought, well, I figure I'll watch the news. And they're going on about European Central Bank, currencies, interest rate, VAT being put up. I mean, this is years ago. This was like 1990, 91-ish. I thought, I don't know what they're talking about. I thought, well, it probably won't affect me. Oh, how stupid. I had no idea what was to come. I got stuck in that flat, negative equity for 10 years. Couldn't sell it. Couldn't sell it for enough to pay the bloody mortgage off, let alone get any deposit back. Work disappeared. Businesses closed, left, right and centre. I'm talking Brighton and Hove. Oh, God. George Street was decimated. There was, I think it was the Woolwich Building Society and Tesco's, and maybe one other shop. The rest were just boarded up to let. I soon found out what business rates were. I started figuring stuff out, and it was awful. It seemed to go on forever. Things didn't seem to improve until about 94, so that's a lot of years, that's a lot of time. And a lot happened. And I swore to myself, in future I'm going to pay attention. Not to politics, but to what's going to affect me financially. And, oh yeah, I've got off the subject of that person who's on my case on the Yaxley Lennon thing. This person says, oh, I've been following you since you started your channel 3 years ago. Well, firstly, I've had the channel for 5 years. And then they go on about my mum having been a left-wing judge. What the fuck? Pardon my French. What the fuck? My mother, Tory County Councillor, leader of East Sussex County Council, chairman of East Sussex County Council. My father, staunch Conservative, under-sheriff of Sussex. I mean, neither of my parents were judges, and my God, they'd be turning in their grave if they heard someone say, oh, she was brought up left-wing, and then they went on about I must have had a poor education. Well, I can't disagree with that one, but it was a private school, bloody awful one. It was a long time ago, that. Anyway, so yeah, I started to pay attention to recessions. I started to think, oh, what's gold price? I've been watching cryptocurrencies a lot. And what it seems to me is there is a guy called Gary Gensler who has just had it in for cryptos, especially the few little tiny ones I own, which is Ripple, XRP. Not that I'm recommending anyone else buy them, but they're very cheap and I have a great belief in it. Well, apparently if Trump wins the election, he's going to sack Gary Gensler. So I'm watching things like that. And different political things affect people's lives. For example, I know two people very, very close and dear to my heart whose communities and economies were decimated, really, under the Thatcher government, of which, of course, my parents were a big thing. And I find Mrs. T a fascinating person as a historical Prime Minister. The rights or wrongs of it, but various decisions that any politician makes will affect one part of the community for the better and others adversely. And there are always people who do so much better than me. I can't understand it. You know, they're right on it. They think, oh, a law's just been invented, there'll be money there, and they're on it, and they go and invest in something. And I think, how did you work that out? How did you know that? How did you know that was going to happen? Well, anyway, I mean, at the moment, it looks like the UK's in full-blown meltdown. I haven't seen anything like that in years. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like it. Every country has their problems. Who knows where it will lead? I'll tell you one place I hope it won't lead. I hope it won't lead to Harry and Meghan jumping on the bloody bandwagon and saying, oh, I told you so, because no, they fucking didn't. They played their role in the build-up to this. They played their role. Believe me, that much I can see. And I sincerely hope that it does not lead to the gates of Buckingham Palace being stormed. Because, I mean, that's the ultimate, isn't it? Police, as Graham says, are the King's men and women. Really. They're the Crown's men and women, which means they're the public's men and women. I honestly don't believe anarchy works. There's clearly been a total, full-blown meltdown, loss of faith in everyone, everywhere. Every political party, it would seem. That's how it looks from here. Oh, look, water skiing. Oh, it's going to come over here. Can you see that? They've got that in shot. Yeah, looks like land of milk and honey. And it is. There's a lot of wealthy people in Gibraltar. There's a lot of poor people in Gibraltar. Everybody gets along. Everybody muddles along. There's a lot of rich people this side of the border and a lot of poor people this side of the border. We've got 300 days of sunshine a year, which does help. Believe me. It helps with mental health. It makes all the difference. But there are flare-ups here as well. Believe me. And there certainly have been all the time we've been here. We've seen plenty flare-ups. In fact, I can't remember which year it was, but it was a few years ago. There was they used to smuggle a lot, you know, cigarettes, short range, they smuggle cigarettes out of Gibraltar into La Linea. And longer range, they come from Morocco, all sorts. Some guys even had submarines. Submarines, that's determined, isn't it? And then they introduced the Predator drones, which are up there watching the Strait of Gibraltar all the time, and a lot of the smuggling just stopped, point blank, just stopped. But one year, there were some lads in a boat. I don't know what nationality. I think they were Spanish, and the RGP boat crashed into it, went over it. Cover your ears if you don't like gruesome things. Anyway, it decapitated one of the smugglers, one of the boys. Well, the families this side of the border went crazy. They said they'd done it on purpose. I don't think they did. RGP, of course, were getting it in the neck. There was a big kick-off with both sides of the border. But it calmed down, and I mean, eventually everybody thought, well, we've got to get along, And they do, they get along very well. I know loads of people this side of the border and that side of the border, and they're integrated. I mean, don't make no mistake, that is Britain. That rock, that's British. British law. The RGP are British police officers. The courts largely follow the same principles and etc. as the UK. They all speak English. They're bilingual. I've always loved them and been so impressed with them. I mean, they can flick from one language to the other. It's really awesome. So a lot of people this side of the border, I mean, quite a lot do speak English these days, but traditionally, no, they never did, because they work in Gibraltar. And why do they need to learn to speak English? Because the Gibraltarians, the Llanitos, they can speak to them in Spanish. And equally, us English, the English-speaking people who live that side of the border, generally speaking, didn't learn a lot of Spanish, although a lot did. I'm still struggling with mine. I'm still watching the TV with subtitles and learning new words all the time. Oh, here it comes again. Oh, I really want to go to the beach today. I hope Graham wants to go to the beach today. If not, I shall go on my own and swim. Anyway, so, your thoughts and opinions on everything. Have you ever lived through a recession? How did you cope? Have you ever taken advantage of a recession? Have you ever been able to preempt, predict, see what's coming? I'll tell you two people who can't see what's coming. That's Meghan and Harry. I bet they're sitting there right now thinking, how could it all have gone so wrong? Where did all the money go? Well, lawsuits, sugars. I mean, look at all the death threats. She's going to forget all about that. Kindfulness and mindfulness online. Well, I've done a ton of videos about that before. I feel kind of exhausted by Harry and Meghan and the sugars, and I don't see the sugars so much these days. Probably because the money's run out. But I hope that you guys don't let them forget what they did while they're sitting there preaching to the rest of us about online kindfulness, mindfulness and all the rest of their bollocksness. As always, thank you very much for listening.